People still way overcomplicate how to lose weight through flexible dieting, and I want to help you guys simplify it this way so that you can lose some weight, have some better confidence, and just have a better relationship when it comes to food in general. So if you're not already, make sure you're subscribed. I've been in fitness for about 20 years now, and I help you guys understand how to navigate both fitness and your dieting. Now, when it comes to just like general tips of dieting, you want to always consider what your maintenance calories are, which basically means the amount of calories that your body uses to maintain its body weight. You can literally download any sort of free app that will give you some sort of baseline that you can kind of go off of. And you never want to just use that as like, in a literal way. You want to use that as kind of like a guideline, and then you want to assess what your body does from there. Now, obviously it takes about maybe 2 to 3 weeks for your body to actually regulate whatever you're giving it, but you always want to track your calories regardless, just so you know what you're giving it. And once you hit a point where you're basically your weight is about staying the same, so you want to always measure your weight every single day in the morning whenever you wake up, same conditions, so that there's no factors that would change your weight. You want to have a baseline, right? So like, let's say for example it's 2,000 calories, which is not going to be the case for most people, but let's just use this as an example. You want to, assuming that most of you guys want to lose fat or weight, you always want to eat in about a 200 to 300 calorie deficit each day, which basically puts you on average to lose, that's about 2,100 calories per week that you're eating less of, assuming that you're eating, 300 calories less for 7 days out of the week. So you can do this in two ways, right? So you can either burn 300 calories a day, or you can eat 300 calories less. And depending on if you're somebody who's like me, like a foodie, or you just love to do cardio, then you can kind of pick your poison, or you can kind of just like mix and match, right? It doesn't really matter as long as you actually stay in that deficit. And the number one way I can recommend doing this is just make sure you have a like MyFitnessPal or some kind of calorie tracking app that you're able to consistently track, because if you don't know what you're putting in your body, then you're going to be lost. And it also keeps you more accountable, so you're not doing like a lot of binge eating here and there. So obviously, whenever you find your goals, you want to ideally break down your macronutrients. So, calories is pretty important, but what's also pretty, in my opinion, the most important factors is going to make sure that you maintain a high protein based diet. So you typically want to aim, if you're a male, you want to aim between like 0.8 to maybe a gram protein per body weight. And obviously you can kind of play with your fats and your carbs. I tend to have a higher carb and around 50 to 60 grams of fat tops, just to have, baseline hormonal regulation. And then the carbs you can kind of play with and see, what works the best for you. And that way you're going to be able to ideally enjoy more foods. And you don't always have to resort to like the chicken, broccoli, and rice. Obviously that's like not sustainable, right? And people want to be able to enjoy their life and go out with friends, have drinks and whatever. And so one big tip that I can give you guys is you don't always necessarily need food like right when you wake up and throughout the day. And if you know that you're going to have some sort of like event or maybe a date or whatever the case may be, then just go lower calories and account for whatever you're going to be eating later and try to factor it in. I know that whenever you eat out at restaurants or whatever, it's a little bit harder to track, but over time, once you start familiarizing yourself with these portions of food, the calorie content and all that kind of stuff, you can sort of eyeball it so that you can, obviously have a good idea of whatever your calorie intake is for that day. And you'll just get a lot better over time, I promise. And it's a little bit tedious, but once you do this, you'll be able to seamlessly just go on about your day and just kind of like, kind of do it on autopilot. Now, another thing to also consider is even if you do go over one day, the last thing that you want to do is just think like, oh no, I messed it up, so like it's all over. You can totally just come back from this, because whenever your calories are measured, it's usually bi-weekly, because your body fluctuates so much on a day-to-day anyway, to where you'd want to just balance that out. So if you went like, a few hundred or even like 1,000 calories over your daily goal, well, then you can obviously just like compensate that for the next couple days, right? So maybe it's eating like, an extra 250 to 300 calories less. Maybe you're doing more cardio, things like that. And something that I really love doing, going back to the whole, you don't need breakfast all the time or all this food throughout the day. A big hack that I kind of learned over time is, I function a lot better with no food in my system until, after a workout, which also kind of puts you in this, phase where you can have a lot bigger meals. It's more satiating, and you kind of put your calories towards the end of the day, which is typically when most people get their cravings. And so that's an easy hack to kind of mitigate, how much food you're actually intaking throughout the day. And it just sets you up a lot better, because whenever people try to do like intermittent fasting and stuff, they don't actually fast. But the problem, or not the problem, but the thing that is so beneficial when they try to fast is it, psychologically tells them I cannot eat until this window. And so it indirectly forces them to eat less calories because they're telling themselves, I can only eat for this like 6 to 8 hour window. It's kind of the same thing whenever you just push your food back towards the end of the day. So that's pretty much my little tips. If you have any questions or any of that's confusing, just drop them in the comment section. I'm happy to make more videos on this topic. I think it's very important because so many people just have a really bad relationship when it comes to food and, achieving their goals. And I'm here to tell you, you can definitely do both. I've tried literally every single diet under the sun, literally. And I just, it frustrates me when I hear people say like, oh, it must be nice eating because I eat sushi like so many times or pizza or burgers. And they're like, oh, it must be nice because of your metabolism. It's like, no, I just understand food and how it all kind of comes together. And I just eat according to my goals. So I'm here to help. And again, make sure you subscribe, smash this like button, share the video with a friend. It really helps me with the algorithm. I will see you all soon. Bye.